It is the very early morning hours on the West Coast. Of course, 4:35 in Los Angeles, 6:35 here in Kansas City. And we are grateful to bring back on the show and say good morning to Mills Hayes. She is a News Nation national correspondent, and she has been on the ground in L.A. Mills, good morning. Thank you for being back on KCMO. And how did last night, early this morning, compare to prior nights since there was a curfew in place this past night?
Hey, good morning to you guys. Well, so far, things are pretty quiet now. Of course, it's 4:30 local time here in Los Angeles, but I will say that the curfew did seem to quiet things down. However, we did have protests again yesterday. There was actually a prayer vigil that really kind of kicked things off. Hundreds of people were there in downtown Los Angeles, and then they marched over to the federal building, and that's kind of where things started to get a little bit tenser, and especially as the night went on. But before it got dark, there were about 200 arrests. That's according to LA Times. We're waiting to get confirmation from LAPD. But that was during the day. And then when the curfew hit around 8 o'clock local, there were 25 arrests. And so they did say that there was going to be mass arrests, but according to LA Times, we did just see 25 after that curfew hit. And it did seem to really work. We woke up this morning, we got on our shift, and there were a lot less stragglers from the protest around the downtown area this morning than there were yesterday. So it does seem to be working.
Okay. Now, the issue 2 nights ago, I know, was we started to see more of the looting and things of that nature. Was that also more or less non-existent last night, early this morning?
We have not seen any reports of any looting ourselves overnight. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. However, we did see on overnight yesterday when we were out in the early mornings hours of like 1 a.m. yesterday, we personally saw looting take place as well as arrests from that looting happen. But overnight, as far as like early this morning and last night, no confirmed reports of looting, but again, doesn't mean it didn't happen, but it was not as widespread as it was the night before, that's for sure.
So it seems like after the LAPD chief had said, not just insinuated, but said he felt a little overwhelmed Sunday and Monday, does it feel like LAPD is got this thing somewhat under control for the first time since these protests, riots, whatever you want to call them, broke out late last week?
I would say so, because it does seem like they've gotten a little bit more organized, and they've also gotten reinforcement from other cities. We've seen police officers from Burbank, Santa Ana. We've seen them in the Los Angeles area, so they're getting backup from other cities as well. And they've got LA County Sheriff deputies helping. They've got California Highway Patrol. And so it does seem, at least from our standpoint, over the past 2 days, that the state and local police office or law enforcement have it under control. Now, I think what we're going to be watching today is with the introduction of those 700 Marines. We know that they're already in the area, but they won't be deployed and actually visible until later today, where we expect them to be with the National Guard troops around the federal buildings in downtown LA. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if that may, instigate some of those agitators to act up again. So that's really what we're going to be watching today to see if that show of federal force increases any protest activity. We know there's already protests that are planned for today, but whether or not they turn violent or chaotic, that's going to be a wait and see situation, and whether or not the state and local officers will have it under control or not. But so far, over the past 2 days, it does seem like they do have it under control.
Mills Hayes is here, News Nation national correspondent on the ground in L.A. Have you been able to gather, Mills, any of the coordination on these protests and the groups that are the big coordinators of what's been happening in L.A.?
Well, there's a lot of different community groups in LA and a lot of different union groups. So think like the teachers union here in LA County, as well as the SEIU, United Auto Workers. A lot of those groups are helping with organizing these protests, as well as a lot of different immigrant rights groups here in the LA area. So those are the ones that we're seeing really kind of create these or plan these protests and these prayer vigils and these rallies. And then, of course, there people that hear about the protests and then they come and they may not be affiliated with these groups, but they feel strongly about getting ICE out of their communities. And so it's kind of a mixture of both. There's a lot of coordination of community groups that are working to kind of activate people and make sure that there is a presence of protesters on the ground.
All right. Well, Mills, thank you so much for being here once again. I know you got a lot going on there in LA. We appreciate you joining us on KCMO in Kansas City. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
All right. You as well. That is Mills Hayes, News Nation national correspondent on the ground in Los Angeles. They have done an excellent job at News Nation on some of their reporting over the last few days from Los Angeles. So we appreciate her giving us that firsthand perspective on what she has been seeing the last couple of nights on the ground.